Welcome back to another one of Mr. Burston's video tutorials. This is Inventor '05 Pattern. To start today, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be exploring both the circular pattern tool and the rectangular pattern tool. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to make anything super nice this time around. We're really just going to demonstrate how we use each of these tools and what you need to do for each of these tools in order to make them work. So let's go ahead and get started. The very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create like a bicycle wheel with spokes on it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Start 2D Sketch. I'm going to start on my XY plane as I always do. I'm going to do this very rapidly here. I need 3 circles to be made very quickly. So I'm going to start in the center like I always do. I'm going to create 1, 2, 3 circles, and they're going to look roughly like this, but I'm going to make this the size of a wheel. So let's go ahead and start dimensioning. Going to hit my dimension tool. I'm going to click on the first circle in the center. And I can click somewhere in the center if that works for you, or I can click somewhere else, just as long as you're dimensioning that circle. Going to make that 6 inches. My next circle on the outside, I'm going to make this one 22 inches. And my final circle right here, I'm going to make this one 24 inches. So you should have a sketch that looks like this. Again, that inner circle is 6 inches, next circle out is 22 inches, final circle is 24 inches. I'm going to go ahead and hit Finish Sketch. I'm going to click my Home button, that way the whole thing zooms out. I can see the entire wheel. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Extrude. I'm going to select okay, so specifically, hit Extrude. Obviously, it does not select something immediately. I'm going to click the inner circle and the outer circle. I don't want this middle circle right here. I just want the inner and outer. I'm going to define this at 6 inches. And now I'm going to hit OK. Now comes the fun part where we get to use circular pattern. You're going to click on the end of your wheel, click on that portion right there, and we're going to start another 2D sketch. Now we're going to use the dimension tool and the rectangle tool a little bit here in order to make some very, very basic spokes. When you turn in your assignment, I'd like to see a little bit of creativity. Try using the arc tool, or maybe you make a cool little shape, but I'm just demonstrating how you can use the circular pattern tool. So the first thing I'm going to need is I'm going to need a spoke on my wheel. This rectangle doesn't have to be a particular size. We're going to see how this is going to work in just a moment. I'm going to start using my dimension tool and start dimensioning that line right there. I'm going to make that 9 inches. Then I'm going to zoom in on this line up here, and I'm going to say that I want this to be 1 inch to make this, to give myself some even numbers to work with. Then I am going to do something a little unique here. I'm going to click on this line here where I just made the 9 inches. Then I'm going to click on this center dot down here to define the distance between this dot and this line right down here. What that's going to let me do once I click again is if I say that this is 1/2 inch, now I know that my spoke is centered with the rest of the wheel. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click this bottom line down here, and I'm going to click this point again down here, and we'll say that this is 2 inches. Okay, now I have a small problem. That square isn't, the rectangle isn't quite as high as I want it to be, so let's change that to 2.25 inches. There we go. Perfect. That's what I want. The last thing that you need before we use our circular pattern tool is you need a circle in the middle. It does not matter what size this circle is. You don't have to dimension it. You don't have to do anything with it. You just need a circle in the middle so that we have something to pattern around. And you're going to see what I mean in just a moment. Once I'm done with my circle tool, I hit escape to stop using it. I'm then going to click on circular pattern. So you're going to take a look at how this works here. So I click on circular. When this little window pops up, you see the first thing that comes up is something called geometry. What this is asking me to do is it's asking me to select what I want to pattern or what I want to copy in a circular pattern. So I'm going to click on the 4 lines of my rectangle because that's what I want to copy. Once I do that, I'm going to move over to this orange arrow over here that says axis. When I click on that, this is where that circle that we made comes in. This is my axis here. When I click on the circle, you're going to see the magic happen. There we go. In light gray, we see that I have 6 of these already made, but I don't want 6 of them. I want 8 of them. So I'm going to edit this number. I'm going to say 8 instead. The other number that you can change over here is the angles, how many degrees you want this angled around. So this is going around the entire thing. So it's starting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 is my original. But say that I only want it going 180 degrees. Whoop, did not type that in correctly. Here we go. 180. You see that it's only going around half the circle, and I still have a total of 8. But I want it to go around the entire circle because this wouldn't be a very good wheel if it didn't have structural support all the way around. All right. So 360 degrees is what I want. I'm going to hit OK once I'm done with this, and there all my sketches have been made. I'm going to hit Finish Sketch, and then I'm going to hit Extrude, and then I'm going to click on each of my rectangles that I just made, all right? And as I click on each of them, you see that they're currently coming out the wrong way. Of course, we can always go by and fix that. We're going to go to our direction button. We're going to hit flipped on our direction. We're also going to go down to our boolean, and so it thinks that we want to make a cut here, but I don't want to make a cut. Instead, I want this to be a join operation. So I'm going to click join, and I'm going to click OK. And there we have a very nice looking wheel. Kind of looks like a wagon wheel. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a kind of a building right next to this wheel. So I'm going to start another 2D sketch. I'm going to start it on this end of the wheel, but I'm going to move my camera over and start a new rectangle over here. I'm going to line the bottom of this rectangle up with the bottom of my wheel. So I'm going to highlight the bottom of my wheel like this, and I'm looking at that little dotted line that's appearing with my yellow dot. And I'm going to make a big box. I'm going to make this box 25 inches by 40 inches. Going to hit enter. I'm going to use my dimension tool to lock this down. So I'm going to dimension between this line right here and the middle right here. We'll say that that's 30 inches. And then I'm going to dimension between my bottom line down here and that middle point right there. And we will say that that is 12 inches. And that works perfectly. We'll hit finish sketch. We'll hit the home button so that I can see everything. I'm going to hit extrude. Now currently this is coming out the wrong way. I want it to be going the same way as the rest of my wheel, so I'm just going to hit flipped on the direction, and I'm going to hit OK, and 6 inches was perfect. That's exactly what I want. Now I'm going to click on the face of my, the front of my building, and I'm going to hit start 2D sketch again. And here's what I'm going to do with that. So I want a lot of windows in my building, but I do not want to make a bunch of rectangles. So here's what we're going to start with. I'm going to start with one rectangle up in the corner of my building that is 2 by 4 inches. All right. I'm going to use my dimension tool to lock this down. So I'm going to dimension between this top line and the line up here and do 1 inch. I'm going to dimension between this line and make it 1 inch. And now we get to see some magic happen again. I'm going to hit escape to stop using my dimension tool. Now I'm going to use the rectangular pattern tool. So I click on rectangular, and it's a very similar setup to how we did with circular. The first thing it's asking me for is the geometry. So I'm going to click on each of the lines that I want to copy. There we go. Now we have direction 1 and direction 2, and we're going to see how we use both of these. The first thing I'm going to do is click the red arrow on direction 1. I'm going to click on the top line of my building here, and that's going to tell this, okay, we want direction back and forth like this. We'll see what I mean here in just a moment. I click it. Doesn't look like a lot is really happening right now. We see that our new rectangle is kind of overlapping with our old rectangle, but we're going to fix that. The very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust this 1 inch to 3 inches. Here's what's happening right now. It is dimensioning between this line right here and the edge of, and it's pushing it 1 inch away. I know that my rectangle is 2 inches. I know that my window is 2 inches, but I want it to be another inch away from the window next to it. So I'm going to make this a total of 3 inches. And we see that gray box, it's a little bit hard to see, but we see that gray box is moved over. All right. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this thing called flip. That's going to flip my box over to the other side. Now, that window is nice. I have 2 windows, but let's get some more windows. Let's change this from 2 to 8. There we go. It fills up the entire thing. But 1 floor of windows on the top is not enough for me. This is where direction 2 comes in. I click on the red arrow for dimension 2. This time I click on this line right here to indicate that I want these windows going up and down. So I click on that line. I see that the windows have not been moved moved down far enough, that's fine. I know that this window is 4 inches. I know that I want to be an inch away from the other window, so I'm going to change this to 5 inches. That gives me an inch gap, and that gives me the windows below. Again, I don't just want 2 floors. Let's go with 6 floors worth of windows. And so I change the count up here to 6. That counts 8. There we go. I have a whole bunch of windows, and I hit OK. And I hit Finish Sketch. Now, on this last one over here, you notice that when I hit Extrude, I was clicking on each of them individually. Well, we're not going to do that this time. We're going to do something a little bit faster. First things first, I'm going to flip my direction. It's going to be a cut operation. I don't want it to go all the way through. I'm just going to have it go 1 inch through. All right. The second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make this easy. Only after I select that first box, I'm going to click and drag a box over the rest of my windows. And there we go. But there was one small problem. I selected all of my windows that I wanted, but it unselected the original window. Easy fix. Just click it again. And now all of my windows are being cut into my building. And I hit OK. And there we have it. I have a wheel using the circular pattern, and I have a building using the rectangular pattern. On your assignment, I'd like to see you show a little bit of creativity. Maybe don't make windows, or maybe make your windows a different shape. Don't use a rectangle for spoke, use something else for spoke. This is really just to show you exactly how we use that, how we use the geometry tool to select what we want to copy, and then how we use those direction tools, the axis tools, to say, okay, I want it patterned like this, and so on and so forth. You don't have to use both directions when you do a rectangular pattern. It just makes sense for this building. But you are good to go and work on your own now and use the pattern tool on your own. Have a good day.